Welcome to the Aura Evolution Podcast, a sacred place for you to return home to your soul. I'm Helen Yeplan, founder of Helen Creates Beauty and the author of the Aura Color Wheel. This podcast is a sanctuary from soul discovery to soul mastery. Each week, we explore aura wisdom, spirit connection, and energy tools to help you embody your light and live your soul's purpose with clarity, joy, and fulfillment. Take a deep breath. Welcome home.
Hello, everybody. We are live for another episode of the Aura Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Helen Yeplan. I'm so excited for this episode because I have a angelic psychic sister on the backstage with me, Nichole Bigley. I will introduce her later because I have some exciting news to share with you. Hello, everybody. So this podcast is live every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you are tuning in with us live on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, you're welcome to ask any questions that's directly to the topic that we are discussing about. And also, of course, you can leave any comments afterwards when you're watching the recording. So audio are available on Tuesdays across all platforms, Shopify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Okay, so today we're going to focus on the topic about psychic ability. Now, as I discussed last week, that I tune into nature's cycles when we are, kind of doing our soul's evolution journey, right? It's important to check in the wheel of the year, the moon cycles, the days of the week. And I noticed that we are actually very close to the pink moon or the first full moon after the spring equinox right now. So tomorrow we're going to have actually a full moon in Libra. So this is actually a very fertile time, at least I personally experience it, is for time for new ideas, relationships, or creative projects. So basically it's good time to plant your seed. So I would encourage you to kind of do some introspection of, what's stirring beneath the surface that are already coming out of you. Now, I personally, in the background, planning a certification for the Aura Color Wheel practitioner. That would be like a 5 moon cycle planning. So I'm putting it out there so that you know that I personally also follow these spring planning, and then summer we water, and then in the fall we are going to harvest. So for now, the exciting news is that the Aura Evolution Sanctuary membership that we're going to gather every month, and the upcoming gathering is going to be on April 2nd, so this Thursday. Okay, for some reason I'm trying to put the banner on here. So it's a membership that I started for an ongoing support for my community, who is a container, an energetic container, as well as a community for accountability to grow our soul together. This sacred gathering contains monthly themes that's channeled with my angels and spirit team. Like, what are the monthly themes? For example, last month, we talked about connecting with your spirit team. So today, I'm very excited that we continue this conversation. And the month before, we talk about how to quantum jump to the identity that we want to manifest our intention. And this month, we're going to talk about our energy hygiene, how to protect our energy. So it's going to be an ongoing monthly gathering. And now I'm offering the first month for free so that you can experience the magic with us. So definitely check it out. And everything I offer is going to be on my website homepage, helencreatesbeauty.com. I'm going to just drop a link here. And here you go. And this particular link will grant you the first month for free offer. I'm just going to put it on the chat. Okay, so lastly, just say little housekeeping. Next Monday, I will be traveling to Hawaii with my family as a spring break. So next Monday, there won't be a live podcast here. However, Nicole's conversation with me today, I think it's going to last a long, long time. So if you can't tune in live with us today, I highly recommend you to watch the full recording. Okay, let's go back to me. I'm going to formally introduce my colleague Nicole in the background, and I'm so excited to bring her on today. Nichole Bigley is an angelic psychic and the host of the #1 spiritual and psychic podcast, A Psychic Story. Actually, I was on her podcast one time and it was epic, the discussion, which reaches millions of listeners each year across 195 countries worldwide. So definitely check out Nicole's podcast. Nicole is devoted to guiding others on their spiritual journeys. Through her work, she teaches people how to connect with their spirit team, ding ding, strengthen their intuition, and discover to live in alignment with their soul's purpose. Nicole's debut book, Looking for Angels, A Guide to Understanding and Connecting with Angels, become an instant bestseller. This award-winning book makes complex spiritual concepts accessible and practical, empowering readers to integrate angelic guidance into everyday life. To learn more about Nicole, I will drop all her social media links, as well as her website, apsychicstory.com. So now I'm going to bring on Nicole with me. Yay! Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited for our topic today. And typically, whenever I bring in on a guest the last Monday of the month, I always like to start the first question of have you taken the Soul Aura Color quiz and do you resonate with the reading?
Of course. Well, I took it when I had you on the podcast and we didn't have a chance to dive in, but
That's
I took
right.
it. Yeah. And my soul aura color is mint and my archetype is entrepreneur.
Yes.
So when I read the entrepreneur aspect, that for sure was, spot on, because I've always had ideas, always led, whether that was working in corporate or what have you. And then definitely the mint aura color that spoke to me, because it said that, practical entrepreneurs on this planet, down to earth, all of that stuff. So that was definitely on par. I will say that when it talked about my soul wound, which was the violet aura color, powered by the third eye, I was like, oh man, I don't want to have to do like shadow work necessarily and go in deep to that, because not that it's not important, but so there was that piece. But as you and I have talked before so many times, and we're always here to grow and learn and everything. And so that to me also was not a surprise, that we all have work to do no matter where we are in our lives.
Definitely. That's probably your original soul wound. I think through all this spiritual work that you've been done for so many years, I think right now you're probably don't have that anymore. Just like my first one was my soul chakra, right? As you off, I doubt, because now you are completely psychic. So when people mention that they might have a soul wound in the third eye chakra, sometimes might be a suppression, actually, when their childhood that they have that born psychic abilities, but they don't want to admit it. So that led me to a very, even just personal curious question about your personal journey to becoming a psychic. Yeah. So
you know what? That's a beautiful bridge, because so when I was growing up, I think we're all psychic, and we'll be getting into that in terms of why and how, and also how people can connect with their spirit team. But I was very open about my psychic abilities, and it wasn't until 7 years ago, right when I started the podcast, that I had heard from my spirit team, you need to start a podcast. It's going to be called A Psychic Story. All of these things for about 7 months, literally every night for 7 months, I'd be praying to spirit, saying, what do I need to do? How can I be in service? Because I was at a point in my life where I knew that there was more, and everything was great on the surface, but underneath it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that I needed to be psychic more in the real world outside of my friends and family, I got scared, not because I didn't believe it, but there was a fear related to that, because I was in PR, marketing, and communications for 20 plus years of my life. And the last thing I thought was, wow, here I am advising people how to talk to the media and to be in the public eye. And then, I'm going to go out there with my name and say, hi, I'm psychic. Like, it felt like that dichotomy. So that resonates with me when you talk about, I've done the growth, because I think especially with the podcast, I've really stepped into that light and embraced it even more than I had been as I had been growing up.
Wow, that's very interesting. I love this story because, I have similarities. And also it's interesting, my one of my early spiritual mentor, Rebecca Campbell, she endorsed the book. She has a parallel story when you mentioned she was also in PR, media, corporate job. And she called it a kind of like a, what's that called? She called it like a spiritual closet. So there is a part of her that she wants to hide in a closet when she talks about spirit guides, mediums and things like that. And it took her a while, literally, from the public eye to open that closet for her to come out. And that when you mentioned about from transitioning, in the corporate world to, it took you I want to just iterate that 7 months of praying and receiving guidance, like 7 months human time. I don't linear.
Yes, it was not a fun 7 months.
Exactly, it must be hard. Okay, so you mentioned at the beginning that we are all psychic. Like, what do you mean by that? And what's your definition of psychic, really?
Yeah. So if I may too, I just want to go back. The reason why I coined and named the podcast The Psychic Story is because psychic can be a loaded term. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions. It can be even considered a dirty word, or it's like dial 1-800-psychic. What does that mean? So it's really important for me to highlight that terminology and ask each guest that I have, what does psychic mean to you? Because it can mean something different to every single person. And for me, the more and more I've done this work and literally living and breathing it my whole life, is that psychic is our ability to read energy. So I use this example all the time, and that is, if you were blindfolded and had earmuffs on and you were to go into a room and you couldn't see or hear at all, what would it be that would give you the clue that maybe people are here celebrating and it's a very crowded room, or maybe people are in the room or something's going on and it's a sad place and people are grieving? Now, how you would pick up on that is going to be different for each person, because just like we have our physical abilities and senses to see, hear, smell, taste, feel physically, feel emotionally, we have mirrors energetically, i.e. the intuition. And then intuition is going to be different. So do you see in your mind's eye? And, what we'd also call creative imagination, which is not necessarily always creative imagination. Do we feel chills in our physical body? Do we know something within our gut? So that's the way I look at it. Again, psychic is ability to read energy to some extent. It's not all about premonitions and predictions necessarily.
Yeah.
It's about how does our intuition come to the surface? And it's often very subtle.
Yes, I love that. And it's also practical and accessible when you kind of dissect it that way, right? And it's beautiful said, because it's interesting. I chose the name Helen, because I was born and raised in China. So I do not have an English name when I was born. So we all get to choose our own English name when we are at elementary school, for schooling, right? So I actually was Helen because of Helen Keller. And she was born, or later, like early childhood, she was detected herself as, deaf and blind. And it took her a while to integrate into society. And the poetry or the books, the words that she's written, I can sense it fell from the heart. It's not, although she cannot see, she cannot hear, I think, that energy that you typically use for seeing and hearing goes somewhere else. And that's the actual perception that you were mentioning. I'm like, wow, this is I never heard a definition like this, but I absolutely love it. And it makes it so simple and accessible, for people. You can even practice it. I'm actually visioning, like I can try it, right? You can put in earplug, go into a room and see what happens, right? It's almost like the telepathy communication. So, like, if this is so interesting, I think kids even have it. Like, if everyone have this ability, why do you think a lot of people are so disconnected from them? And
Yeah, we don't trust it. I mean, first of all, society programs us, whether it's through religion and or other things, to that we don't have it, not to trust it when we do. And also, we live in this very 3D world. We have physical bodies. You know, my one of my favorite sayings, and Wayne Dyer, I don't think he coined it first, but he was the one that made it famous, is we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. And when we are kind of on autopilot and we're asleep, you know, that's why awakening is we see things in a completely different way. We don't necessarily realize that we have what I really refer to our intuition as more instinctual. You know, we have these things that our ancestors, we lived off of the land. We had so much more of a connection to nature and to energy and other things. And the more and more we become modern as society, in addition to the schooling and religion and everything else, we are not taught that it exists, that we have access to it, that it is our spiritual right, that we are empowered, and that we have and can and speak not only with God, universe, source, and our angels, but ourselves in a much deeper way. And so it really does come down to trust.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I really want to go back to that. Also, the clear senses that you mentioned, you know, that particular practice, because I think it's going to help audience a lot, you know, to develop, like further develop or reconnect, let me put it that way, to reconnect to that senses of theirs. Can you like, you know, explain a little bit about, you know, what they are? How can they almost like train themselves to reconnect that senses so that they can perceive energy on their own?
Sure. So when I was, you know, starting the podcast again about 7 years ago, I was really tuning in, not research online, but tuning into how many senses are there. And I honestly started to lose count because there's so many different types of abilities. So also, just like we're psychic, we're also all healers. So that's a whole nother podcast conversation for another day. But as far as intuition, in simplest terms, think of it just like you can see, hear, smell, taste, feel physically, feel emotionally. You have those mirrors to you energetically. Okay. But when you talk about the clairs, if people aren't familiar with them, clair means clear. So there's clairvoyance. So you can see in your mind's eye, or you can also see with your physical eye. There's clairaudience, where you hear with your physical ears, but also, you know, if I were to say to you, recall the sound a bird makes, if you can hear that in your ear, you can hear also clairaudiently. There's claircognizance, which is a clear knowing, you know, that gut intuition that you have, something drops in. I always say with this one, it's like when I know, like you can't tell me otherwise. It's not like I'm a know-it-all, but it's like, you just can't, you know, it's this knowing. And also most people would also think of like downloads as maybe falling into this category. There's clair intellect. So people, this was fascinating to me. So just like not everyone can see in their mind's eye, Helen, or even hear in their head, not everyone has inner dialogue either. So clair intellect is when an understanding comes through, or there's complex or, you know, ideas and solutions that come through, or if you're having a dialogue, not with self, you know, yourself, like, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? But when you're going back and forth, there's that clair intellect. There's clair empathy. Sometimes people think of clair sentience, which is clear physical feeling, and they were categorized clair empathy in that as well. I kind of keep them separate because when people are really emotional and they feel their emotions really deeply and the emotions of other people deeply, and hi, that's not mine, but I'm taking it on. Yes. That's a clair empath. There's clairalience, which is clear smelling. That's one where I don't get it a ton, but like if you smell flowers, or you smell your grandmother's perfume, or somebody used to smoke a cigar and you smell that, those are examples of clairalience. And then there's clairgustance, which is clear tasting. And that is, you know, if I were to say, think of a lemon and what a lemon tastes like, if all of a sudden your mouth starts to pucker up, that's an indication that maybe you can also, you know, develop that ability a little more. So there's a lot more, but those are just some of them when you're looking at the quote unquote clairs.
Right. So would you say that people like have all of them, some of them, like, you know, how do they kind of recognize what are the strongest for them? Do they need to like try everything, or like what, like, you know, like practically speaking?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you teach this in your membership and other ways that you can test this out.
I'm
so
curious.
So even when I was saying things like, you know, recall the sound a bird makes, if I say, you recall what a lemon tastes like, if you can you can start to do those sorts of things to see if you have the ability. But my belief is that yes, we all have all of them. The difference is that just like I'm not great at math and I have to try really, really hard if I'm going to sit down and follow a formula, you know, I could probably get really great at playing piano, but I'm not a talented musician either, nor am I a talented athlete. But I can still, you know, I have the ability if I were to train and if I were to practice. That said, some of these abilities come more naturally. So the way I like to explain it to people is how you prefer to communicate and or learn is most likely how your intuitive abilities are the strongest or what comes to the surface. So for example, I'm a visual learner. You can give me a whole bunch of written instructions and I have to read that through, like probably not the best way, but if you show me once, I'll probably recall it. Or if you're, you know, giving me a visual that goes with it, I'm able to process that. And that's also because if you think about it scientifically, again, the reason why somebody may not necessarily be able to see in their mind's eye or see creatively is because their brain doesn't work that way. So remember the mirrors, the physical mirror and the energetic mirror. So yes, we're going to have some limitations, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn it and strengthen it depending on what comes naturally. So for me, clairvoyance, that visual, I'm very much a feeler emotionally. So the clair empathy. What about you? What are your strongest ones? I know we talked about it when you were on mine, but for this conversation.
Right. As you were sharing it, I'm definitely a clairvoyance, definitely, because I see the paintings. And when you mentioned about the creative imagination, sometimes I would, like when you don't, you know, think it psychically that way, you call it creative imagination, right? But however, you know that when you work with this energy long enough, you know that that's a way of channeling or download. It's just like the painting I paint, for example, the dragon lady right behind me. It's like during my meditation, I just have visions. I sometimes play movies in my third eye. It's like, wow, what's going on? Like same like you. Like if you give me a bunch of text, I'm like, what is this talking about, right? But if you give me an image or a picture, I'm like, okay, I can mimic it immediately, like right away. So when as you mentioned, like when people they cannot see it, you know, if they can, you know, I definitely think that you can just try to imagine something. If you are clairvoyant like us, you know, it's actually a healthy way to develop further along your clairvoyance. At the beginning, we thought it must be imagination, but you know when you know that it's not. It's like it's something that you are seeing, right? And for those who have a hard time seeing anything, I remember in your membership we talk about some people, I cannot see whatever. And during that guided meditation, especially, then you can try other senses. You can feel into it, right? You can, you know, try to hear what it is. And for me, the next thing is cognizant. Sometimes I just know. And I still remember that when I just had that download at the beginning, it's really hard for me to use my logical brain to wrap around it. I just know it's going to happen. When people ask me why, I cannot tell. But if you experiment multiple times, you know, that was like it is confirmed the fact that that's actually happened. And then you use it like, I use it like about 2 to 3 times at least. Then I know that, okay, I just know, and don't ask me why, and this works. So from then on, I just accept it. I'm just thinking like from, you know, that trust you mentioned is such an important point. I want to, you know, showcase also the process. Like it's not like, you know, although, you know, we're going back to our psychic self at the beginning because of the trained education that we are in, the system we grow up, it's hard for us to trust immediately. But I highly recommend that I would experiment. You know, it took me a few times. And after that, I'm like, okay, this is my clear cognizant talking. I'm not going to doubt it anymore. I just know that this is going to happen. I don't care about you trust me or not. You know, I just basically plan or act accordingly of my knowing. So those two are pretty much my go-to that I rely on, unless I do readings for other people that I sometimes smell things, but I don't really smell it for myself. It's like when I do reading for other souls, I tend to smell their loved ones, some kind of smell, just like you mentioned. That's so interesting. Now let's move on to spirit guides, because you know, I know a lot of us want to know who our spirit guides are, how they can become part of our spirit team. Are all spirits in the quantum field are our spirit team, or how do we recognize them?
Yeah, so I call them spirit team because they are massive. So when people
That's
come to
right.
me, and I'm sure it's like with you,
Yeah.
hey, do I have an angel at all? And if I do, is it one or what have you? And so I think most people are surprised to know that our spirit teams are really large. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think of it like a game of tag, you're it. The reason why one of them, a being, comes into your life at any point, whether it's in a reading or if you're going through something hard in your life or an awesome, amazing opportunity, and they want to congratulate you and support you. So our spirit teams are rather large. And the way that I tune in, or how it's been shown to me too in my experience and also through sessions, is that it can include angels. So yes, guardian angels, also general angels. So the angelic realm as a whole. Archangels are really big in my life. So I work a lot with the archangels. Those are big energy. I call them the heavy hitters. So if you have big purpose, big things to do, or again, you're going through something in your life where you need a lot more support, they tend to come in. Our loved ones on the other side, and even often when we haven't even met them, they could have been in our family lineage or ancestors, but they're here to support us. On the other side, our pets, our animals. There's also animal guides in nature that are, I look at them as gifts from source, from the universe, from Mother Earth, what they represent, the energy, the feeling. There's elementals, which are fairies. I don't deal as much with the intergalactic realm, like extraterrestrials and so forth, but they are on a lot of people's spirit teams, and they're also guides. And then there's also ascended masters, which was coined very early on in the New Age. And what those represent are, think of like Gandhi, Mother Teresa, so what have you, they were human souls, but human. And over time, working on their own spiritual growth, they ascended to a certain place where then now when they're on the other side, they help humanity because they've walked in our shoes before. They know what it's like to have a human existence. So that's a spirit team as a whole.
Yeah. I love so much synergy between your work and my work. Is like, oh my gosh, you just summarized a chapter in my book. It's literally how to connect with your spirit team, and you describe the 9 types of spirit guides I wrote in there. I'm like, okay, awesome. And I also named them a spirit team because whenever I tune in, I see a massive amount. Like, I don't know whether to you there is a specific number. For me, it's like between 5 to 9 at a time that they want to like step in.
Oh, really?
And
That's
work
interesting.
with them. Now they kind of can change and shift, and some are kind of sitting in the background. Yes. They don't talk, like, when I channel, some, like the ones who are actively working with this particular soul, those want to like step up and talk. The biggest team I've ever channeled, I think like between 12 to 16 is like really the large one that they actually all have something to say, no matter it's like longer or shorter. And I'm like, wow, this person has like massive mission right now, right? But typically between 5 to 9 is kind of when I see like they come in, one at a time, and then they kind of subside the energy. I'm very curious. When you tune in, right? When you do spirit message reading for your clients and students, what do you see? Like what senses? Say what senses you're using? How do you feel them? How do you translate them into human language? Sometimes they don't speak that way that we speak.
Yeah. So if I may, I'll share a quick story. And I do want to also make sure that we talk about how people can connect with them, because I didn't want to discount that question that you had. But so when I was little, I always am terrible at like ages, but I think I was around like the age of 5, and I could feel this presence in my room when I was alone playing with my toys. And it went on for days. And finally I had the courage, because I could feel the presence, but I couldn't see it with my physical eyes. And then I had that knowing, like, okay, something's here. So I kind of just to fake myself out said, okay, who are you? Like, why are you here? And in my head, I heard, I'm Michael. And so at first I thought, well, is this like what my friends talk about with imaginary friends? Because some of my friends could see their imaginary friends, and like the way that they related was very different than what I was experiencing. So I share that because in that moment, it was more going back to, again, that psychic reading energy, like I knew something was in the room. I could feel a presence. It felt physical, but I couldn't see it physically. So that was how it manifested when I was a child. And then now the way that I communicate primarily is through my clairvoyance. So when I tune into somebody's team, I'm visualizing them intentionally in my mind's eye. And then around them, I see light. And that light could be literally like a crowded stadium, and it's kind of blurry. And then there's souls or beings that are stepping more forward, and they stand beside a person in a certain way. And then I'm able to say, okay, and determine this is what this being is. And then I tune in to energetically, how does this being feel? Does it feel angelic? Does it feel more human? Does it feel like an animal?
Yeah.
It's like if you're with your husband or you're with your best friend or your mom, whether you're in person or you're on having a phone conversation with them or a video call, you feel their energy. And I don't think that we think of that as much, you know?
Yeah.
And so that kind of that feeling, but also emotionally. So depending, I'll feel the being's emotions, i.e. the love that they have for this person and what have you. So it really depends. And similarly to you, Helen, a lot of what I use for my own intuition isn't always the exact same when I'm having a client session or I'm tuning in. And I think that's what helps me distinguish, because it's like when you have the smells, for example, you're like, ooh, this soul is trying to help me better understand and represent this soul, so that then it's clearer for you when it comes through.
Yes. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it's so similar. It's very, very similar. And yeah, sometimes when I need a little bit information, because the other side, the other side ask some questions, they need some clarification that I didn't get enough information. For example, sometimes I don't get names very clear, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So in order to know, the other soul has to remember who this soul is, they need to give some hint, some color, an object, that person always associate with, or some smell. That's when I have other senses that come online that I don't typically have. So that's very, very interesting. Now, for those of you who want to basically strengthen these senses or the intuition, say today, what are few simple practices they can begin with? Like take home, let's practice today.
So this is good. So don't do any eye rolls, okay, on this, because you're like, that is too simple, but it's true.
I would like
it's
to
really well, not you. I meant some people maybe listening or watching. It's really to get present and to be silent and present, because our intuition often, especially if we've discounted it, especially if we don't trust it, if we're not taught to recognize what it looks like, then watching a television show or doing something is not necessarily going to be where you're distracted. You're not going to be able to tune in. So whatever that looks like to you, is it going in nature on a walk and quiet and not listening to a podcast and really being present? Is it through meditation? Is it through prayer? Is it when you're in the shower and instead of listening to something, you're like, okay, I'm really going to be present with my own energy. I just saw a big flash of Michael on the right, by the way, with my physical eyes. So he's here. So all of that to say is that being present and being silent is huge. The other is getting curious. And like you were saying about your intuition. So how do I learn? How do I communicate in my day to day? What does that look like? Because whatever that mirror is going to be most likely the thing that comes stronger. And then, as you mentioned earlier, it is about practicing it. One of my favorite ways of tuning into your energy and better understanding this, as I try and teach this to people that are in my membership and on the podcast, how am I feeling? So every morning when I wake up, before I even roll out of bed, there's maybe a handful of times I've forgotten to do this, but I'll ask myself, how am I feeling mentally? Like, am I cluttered? Do I have a lot going on? Or is it clear? How am I feeling emotionally in this moment? Am I feeling peaceful? Am I feeling anxious? What's going on emotionally? How am I feeling physically? And in the beginning, you're going to have very real answers as far as, oh, I slept on my neck wrong and I have a crick in it, that sort of thing. Versus then you start to see the subtleties of, all right, this is my physical human feeling, but what am I actually feeling on this sense? You're not always going to have an answer for every single one, every moment, but what you're able to see, again, is tuning into your own energy. And that's what I call our baseline. So yes, we have ebbs and flows every day. Somebody can cut us off in traffic, or we can go into a meditation and walk out a lot more peaceful. But the point of it is that you're being able to be consciously aware of how you are showing up energetically, how your intuition also is coming to the surface. So that then as you go throughout your day, you're like, I had that knowing. Now I know what it feels like, and or other. And then reflecting back. So if at the end of the day or later on, you can say, ooh, I had these experiences, it builds from there. So those are the simple things that I say, if you do nothing else and you don't know where to start, try those because they're game changers.
Yeah, I love it so much because I wouldn't say that I was born psychic. Maybe I am, but I kind of completely forget about it. But really have all the senses turned on. It's actually by being present and meditation. That's it. That's actually, it just comes naturally. And at the time that I didn't even believe in angels. Okay. So like I literally meditate just because I don't want anxiety and depression. I just want to heal myself. So I don't even believe they exist like a decade ago. And then I'm like, okay. So if you have that intention, even like your intention is to connect with them and you sit in your own presence, I think that will amplify that tenfold, like that particular energy. And whenever that, like if I miss a meditation practice or if I miss the time with nature plays a very significant role to my personal attunement. When you mentioned that just seeing nature, but not like no phone, not listening to bird songs, yeah, okay, but nothing else, like just me being myself. And sometimes I do some gentle yoga, very gentle, not listening to anything. And that's when all these senses got awakened. It's almost like lights up. So that's when I feel like, wow, this is magical, right? And if I don't do that, and if I go into the scrolling, the the typical social scrolling and all of these, and then I feel the connection is not as strong. It's like almost I lost the connection. I'm like, oh no, I want to go back to there. Now you mentioned that prayer is a very significant part of your practice, even on your personally, and I know even now you offer prayer. Tell us about this practice. Why do you think it's important, and in what way that it helps you?
Yes, I'm going to get to that. But there was one thing that you were talking, I had channeled as you were talking.
Okay.
And my guides and angels said one of the reasons why Helen experienced us and was able to get that way, you said it 10 years ago, was you didn't have the expectation. So I think that expectations can also be unintentional blocks for us. If we expect, if I meditate, I need to do it this way, or I'm going to experience this, or my intuition is going to show up this way. Release the expectations, which is really hard for us to do.
Yeah,
humans,
that's actually
yeah. And the amazing moments that I've had in my life, the miraculous things, were when I went into it like not having any expectations whatsoever. And that's when it fell through and it all opened up. So I just want to encourage you. Yes, you have it. Don't force it. Release expectations.
It's like intention and attachment are two things. It's like we can set the intention to connect with the guys or whatever, but at the same time I don't expect a specific outcome. Like for example, if my intention is to connect my guy, by this week 1, they are already talking to me, or by week 2 I'm going to whatever, like that's something, surrender or let go of control. Yes. Wow, it took me a long time, but I think I've learned it. Still, like I noticed that when I don't, like when I get out of it, right? But whenever, like when I'm in that moment, I really want to just enjoy that present moment, because for my nervous system it's so good. I guess it's because of that healing, that craving of going back to wholeness, that rebalance myself, going back to that rebalance, and not just fast, do, right? I understand that we are ambitious human beings or souls, that's totally fine. But at the same time, your soul also yearns for that rebalance. It's okay to do, but at the end of the day, like I do it the first thing in the morning or the last thing before I go to bed. That makes things a little bit easier. And also I intentionally, I know this sounds, I want to put it out there. I take naps almost every single day. And that really helps a lot, to be honest, to reset my nervous system and to because sometimes I actually get downloads during my naps. Like people think that I'm sleeping, but I'm like, because I'm in theta, that like in between you're almost sleeping, but not sleeping. I actually receive a wealth of download. You know, that system, the aura color system, I'm pretty much downloading when I'm sleeping. So from the outside world, you know, people think, wow, you know, how come you're so lazy? You're sleeping like 12 hours a day. I'm like, no, I'm doing a lot. But those
we do
are
a lot of work when we sleep.
yeah, it's intuitive work, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
why people say that they receive information during dream state. And that's the wisdom. I think that's the wisdom that, you know, we download. But yeah, I mean, thank you for that. Thank you for that insight.
Yeah,
Thank you for that
yeah.
channel message.
That surrender, that surrender, that release, and that trust is very important. Okay, so prayer.
Right.
So when I refer to
Mhm.
prayer, it's less of, I know that it can bring up a lot of things sometimes for people because of the religious connotations. And so for a long time, I would shy away from prayer and the way that we think of it. But when I look back at my whole life, you know, not again from religion, but prayer was always constant, and it was what the angels, as I was a child, would teach me, and it came very easily. I know in a past life there was some sort of aspect where there was a lot more prayer involved in my day-to-day. But all that to say, if you think about it, what is prayer? You know, you put your hands together and you're sending up an antenna to source, and there's intention. That is really what prayer is. It's giving you a channel, a signal to send to whatever you think and know and believe in your heart and soul that exists. So that could be God, universe, source, your guides, angels, your higher self, all of that. That is what prayer is. And it's a very powerful, not just healing ability to do, or resource rather, but also to channel, to receive all of those things. And so for me, it's a very meditative state in order to be able to pray. And other people may think of it like a mantra or an affirmation. So whatever feels right to you. But I usually do a lot of prayer work day to day versus meditation. I'll incorporate meditation into it as well. They can be separate practices. But more recently, about towards the end of last year, and we've talked about this separately, I kept getting these downloads and these messages that people needed to pray collectively together. Because when you look at and you do the research and read up on the Maharishi effect, where scientists actually looked at meditation and prayer and what was the impact of that globally, not just from a local community, but globally, there were huge stats and data that showed that through prayer and through meditation, there was this ripple effect that went out. Crime was lowered. People felt less stress, even if they didn't know what was happening around them at the time. So prayer, to me, I've returned to not just from my energy healing and for channeling. I open my sessions in prayer. I end my sessions in prayer. But I feel like it's a really great resource to people to remember that we have this tool, and it's easy and it's free, and you don't need to go to anyone outside of yourself to access it.
Yeah. Would you say that it's almost like an intentional, conscious awareness to getting into that sacred space?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I remember when you mentioned about, you know, the noticing, you know, being present and noticing our energy senses and baseline, you're talking about like a continuous awareness. It's almost like a continuous self-awareness. And that's what, you know, what meditation does, right? Even if you don't like the word meditation, but that's about presence. You know, some people just, I cannot sit there and do nothing. But if you are continually aware rather than forgetting where you are, like in the present sense, how you feel, right? Mentally, emotionally, where you're at, you get that like almost like a sacred, to me, it's like a sacred presence. You kind of have the communion with whatever you want to call that, right? So that's kind of the space I feel like that's what you're trying to get into. Oh, by the way, I want to also mention that I also have the same download in terms of community, like collective praying.
Prayer.
Yeah, I love that so much. Like I personally, well, because I did not grow up religious, so that at least I don't have that, you know, like almost the trouble or any dogma that kind of guiding me, which makes it freer, to be honest, when I begin to pray, right? And my prayer is just like how I talk, literally, like it's nothing, you know, elaborate or anything, because I did not grow up going to church, right? So for me, it's like I talking to Michael like a friend, you know, like archangels, I talk to them like a friend. And what I notice is that sometimes when that unconditional love surfaces, I just generally want to do good for others. Now that's not what I'm saying, that like, human, Helen being whatever. It's just like it's a almost like a different version of me that comes out. And when that happens, the energy is so powerful, and I want to use it towards something. So what I've been doing, like I haven't told this publicly often, but when you mentioned about that collective praying, I want to bring this forward, is that I keep a box of names of souls that I think that we met this lifetime. No matter we just like passing by, it's because we've met many lifetimes. It's it's not random, basically. So I keep a box of all the names of my clients, students, colleagues, like any souls that no matter good or bad, it's not like, it's not personal. I keep the names in a box, and then it's like a little box. And whenever I feel that, almost like this to outer good, I actually do the metta meditation, like may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from sufferings. I do prayers for everybody. So like everyone will be included in the circle. And even some of, clients, friends that kind of have a falling out, whatever, like in this. And I think that really helps. Not only like, to me, it's like forgiveness. Oh my gosh, that helped me huge low. And also, I think this type of love giving, it gives ripple effect coming back to me. Although now I'm not expecting, it's not like, okay, I'm doing this for good, so I'm going to sell, like it's not like I'm selling anything or I'm exchanging anything. But I find that how powerful it was, like unconscious. I was just doing this because I need to do that. Something powerful comes out, I need to do that. And then later on, I realized, oh my gosh, this really works. I just like recently I noticed that. And that's why I feel that urge, that download, when you mentioned that you need to have your podcast, 7 years ago. I feel like I need to have a community that we sit together, like at least gather together, no matter virtually or physically. So when we can do this all together, how powerful that ripple effect is going to be. Oh my gosh, it's like world peace. That's what I really want. But that's like when you mention about it's the energy, I find it that's really, really powerful. And I haven't like done it kind of publicly or intentionally, like getting out there. But I think when you mentioned that, I definitely want to mention that.
Well, join ours.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah, I do one on Sundays. It's not where we get on a call. I just every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So from 11 to 11:11, wherever you are in the world. And then I also say that if you don't, you can't do it from that time frame. You can do it at any point, and it doesn't have to be prayer. But I provide a prayer every day or every Sunday. And then if you want to meditate, if you want to dance, if you want to, listen to good music, whatever, create art, like, and the intention is that we're sending love, and that is pretty much it, as simple as it is. And it's really powerful.
Yeah. How do we join? We definitely want.
So my newsletter, I send them out on Sundays at Sundays out a few hours, and then on my Instagram I post, and Facebook I'll post the prayer. So it's super simple, and you don't have to say the prayer that's provided. But my guides and angels had me start this in January, and we've been doing it every Sunday since. And so this past month we moved into power and empowerment, and then this next month we're moving into healing. So it's not just for ourselves; it's for others, it's for the world, because that's they said this, but this is like how we're going to win the war, not the actual physical war, but the spiritual war.
That's so interesting. We even channel the same thing, and that's exactly why in January I started the membership, like to create a community, and the intention was that. And also, when I remember, like, this energy is very powerful. So whenever you feel this, like when you're in prayer, as you mentioned, the intention is towards others. It's not selfish at all. But the very interesting effect is the energy that's on you, actually.
Yes.
When you are, when you pray, when you're praying for others, but you heal yourself, you can use that same amount of energy actually to heal yourself, to manifest whatever you want to manifest, to becoming a better version of yourself. It's like, wow, it's a it's a very interesting practice that I've been, also feeling guided towards, where my angels are talking about the same thing. It's basically like you do it collectively, and all you're saying, you can even pray for each other, doesn't matter. But the effect on you, you can use the same energy. Like if you are healing your physical body or emotional body, or manifesting something, you can use that same amount of energy on your intention. But it's not like, but your intention is not like, okay, heal me, or manifest 1 million for me. It's not like that. It's completely towards others, but at the same time you receive.
Yes.
So yeah, I absolutely love these. So for people who want to go deeper, you mentioned about this prayer practice every Sunday. I like the 1111 Yuan, the angel numbers. So if they want to go deeper,
hey, they have jokes. They lean into it,
Yeah, that's right. I joke around with them. I sometimes tell my students and clients, don't be so serious. Like when you talk to them, just talk to them like the imaginary friend, right? Talk to them as a friend, like how you would talk, because they know you through and through. There is no faking. No matter
absolutely.
they know every single thing, the shadow, the good and the bad. So there's nothing. So you don't need to pretend to be somebody else in order to pray to them, right? So for me, literally prayer was very simple at the beginning. And then I was out of language. Then I used the metta meditation, the loving kindness meditation. I also love the Ho'oponopono, Hawaii prayer. That one also works as well, because it give out the frequency also towards others rather than only towards yourself, which is awesome. What I was asking is that for people who want to go deeper into this work, how do they connect with you, and what are the resources that you offer for others to work, connecting with that spirit team, and of course joining this prayer community.
Yes, thank you. So I made it easy. You can find me really anywhere with a psychic story. I tried to keep that name. So on Instagram, Facebook, I'm primarily active on Instagram. Of course, the podcast, which is a free resource. That's where all podcast players are. So psychic story, plenty to catch up on there. I too, like you, have a membership. It's called the Psychic Club, and also the Angelic Academy. So once a month we get together and we tune in to an angel so that you can actually fully experience it and receive messages yourself. But the most recent thing that I have coming up, or currently, is I'm doing an energy healing certification training. It's a retreat, and it's April 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2026. So depending on when you're listening to this, and you can find more information on apsychicstory.com. But yes, I mean, the best way to get information is to sign up to my newsletter, and that will include, again, those prayers or the intentions. And one other thing, if I may, Helen, is add that my angels has said to me very often that we all have such a unique resonance. Like, we're here because we're miracles, and we can do things that they can't because we have physical form. So that's why no matter what you're doing, if it is learning more about your intuition, strengthening it, being there through your intention and your presence through prayer, it's very much like breathing. You are, as you mentioned, sending that ripple effect out. And that's what makes it so powerful, is because you and only you alone have your resonance, that vibration and frequency. And that's what makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's so important. Thank you so much for putting that out, Nicole. I think being true to who you really are and shine your own light really give the permission for others to shine their light too. And thank you so much for coming on, Nicole, for this really soulful conversation. I really enjoy talking with you. Any last words before we get off today that you want to let the listeners know?
No, just thank you for having me on. And I think what you just said is clearly one of the more important things. And that is, as you start to embrace really more of who you are and what you feel comfortable, you are going to shine that light. And we are not put here to play small and to discount what our spiritual rights are. And that is to be who we are at the heart and soul of it in all ways. So thank you.
Yeah, we're all psychic. And definitely check out your program, your certification program. I will also send it to my email community, so that way I fully 100% support Nicole's work.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, I mean, you mentioned it, but my book.
Oh, yes.
There's an audio version to it, but if you're wondering, like, wow, Nicole, you speak fast. I didn't catch all that. The reason why I worked on the book with my co-author, Dr. Scott Guerin, is because my angels literally told me to. They're like, you have to write about us. And so this is not my book, actually. This is theirs. I had to finally cut them off because they kept adding stuff. And I was like, listen, this is not going to be an encyclopedia series. Like, I need you to. So there's a lot about angels in here, but also the rest of your spirit team too, and how to connect through your intuition, because your intuition is the channel.
That's right. Yeah, definitely grab a copy of Nicole's book as well. It's absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much. I will make sure that I will put all the links and your information down there. And would love to have you back for another episode later.
Sure. And maybe we can get to questions on that one next time too.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So we're all psychics. We're all healers, right?
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So everyone, if you are listening to this on the recording, please, comment. And if you have any questions, and you know where to find Nicole and me. And so next Monday, I will be off for this live podcast, and I will see you back in the following week, Monday. I think that would be April 13 that I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a blissful rest of the day. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate it. Bye, all.
Bye-bye.